This is Trophy Gold Feast Part 1. So, a quick note if you're watching this video and curious about these characters and where these characters have been. This is actually a continuation of a series that started in another playlist on my channel. That playlist is the Trophy Gold Core Book playlist, and it is the incursions there are I don't remember. Temple of the Peerless Star and the Rhine Palace. So that's where these characters got their start, and this is the continuation of that story. You do not need to watch those in order to enjoy this. I run these things so that they're very contained, and you can watch the whole thing or not, but you'll still be able to enjoy this and get a sense of both the game and the module that we're running just by watching this. But because we are kind of maybe in front of people for the first time, let's just do some introductions. So when I call on you, please say your name, your pronouns, and anything else you would like for people to know about you. I will start. My name is Jason. I use he, him. I am the co-publisher of Trophy along with its creator, Jesse Ross, and I'm very excited to be trying out this module Feast. Let's go to Alicia.
Hi, I'm Alicia. I play and make games. I use she, they pronouns, and I'm excited to return to this character because I'm having a lot of fun with them.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, David.
Hi, my name is David. I run a Powered by the Apocalypse based actual play podcast called Trials of the Apocalypse, doing different one-shots in different games. And I've been playing with this group for a little while now and having a great time with Trophy. It's awesome. I play Osto in this game.
Fantastic. Thank you. And Kavya.
Yep. My name's Kavya. I use she, her pronouns. And yeah, the character interactions here are great.
Fantastic. Let's do a quick CATS for Trophy. And so CATS is an acronym that stands for Concept, Aim, Tone, and Subject Matter. I like to do this in order to establish some basic expectations for what we're going to be doing over the course of this series. And so the concept first of Trophy Gold. Trophy Gold is it's a game about desperate treasure hunters going to the lost and forgotten places of the world in order to find or to plunder antiquities and treasures in order to fund some very expensive drive that they have. It is a game about desperation. It has lots of themes of like just barely scraping by, poverty, that kind of thing, right? And it has the trappings and feel of a traditional adventure game, fantasy adventure game, but it uses a modification of the system from Trophy Dark, which is more of a story game. So it's kind of got like OSR flavor and story game gameplay elements. So it kind of mixes those things in a fun way. This particular module, I'm not going to say too much about it. It's called Feast. It was written by Chris Bissett. It is a tiny hex crawl and dungeon crawl. And I would say that, I'm just going to say that it's about a group of people who are drawn to a forest. It's called Feast, which means something wants to eat them, or they want to eat something. I don't want to go into too much detail. I will say, though, that it's kind of like it's a very horror forward adventure, and it's very like Lovecraftian kind of horror. So that's sort of the vibe that we're doing. I think it's going to take us about 2, possibly 3 sessions to finish it. The aim, we've already made characters, so we will introduce the characters and then we will just dive right into playing. And when we have about 10 minutes left, we'll do a debrief and then we'll pick it up for part 2 and part 3 after that with more of the same. The tone of, I do want to talk about tone a little bit. So Trophy Gold as a general matter can be kind of like a darker tone game. This module in particular is quite dark. And so it has a lot of like graphic horror elements and blood and nastiness. And so just be mindful of that in order to sort of like honor and respect the tone that the module is going for. I think that's just something to be mindful of. Subject matter. So I have played with this group a fair amount, so I kind of know what everyone's sort of tolerances are. But I will say that we have 3 safety tools available for you today. The first is the open door policy. You can leave for any reason that you wish. The second is the X card. In the context of this call, if something happens in the game that makes you uncomfortable in an unfun way, you can say X card or type it in the chat and we will stop and change whatever it was. I will frequently, or I may ask you like, what is being X carded, but I won't ask why is it being X carded. And our principal tool is lines and veils. Now, lines and veils, that is sorted out on our character keeper. I'm not going to go over it, but if there's anybody who wants to make some adjustments or changes, now is the time to do it. And so, are there any questions about cats? Okay, then I think what I'd like to do is just go ahead and introduce the characters, what we know about them so far, for people who are maybe watching this anew. So I'm going to go in the order of the sheet, and that means we're starting with Alicia and Nevin.
Yes, I play Nevin, twin brother to Osto, younger by a minute. And he never lets me forget it. Nevin is uses he him pronouns and is a sort of lumberjack, likes to take off his shirt, doesn't take things very seriously, but will try to appreciate the horror of this module today.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, let's go to Osto.
Sorry, I missed my unmute button. Yes. So Osto is who I will be playing for our episode today. Osto is, as already mentioned, Nevin's older brother, slightly. They're twins. He is a blacksmith, enlightened miner originally, with a drive to rebuild Hisham's fountain, which has been explored a little bit in the previous mysteries and might come up in this one. He's I think that's most of the important details. Any other thing I should mention?
Just whatever you want to mention is fine. Yeah. So if you feel good, then I'm good.
An important detail. He has a ritual yoke that lets him apply the strength of a spectral bowl to a situation, and through the previous amounts of play, we now have an interesting condition star bowl that connects Osto and Estefan, who will be introduced shortly. So that's something that will likely come up. So
fantastic, thank you. And speaking of, Kavya, tell us about Esfahan.
Yep, Esfahan, she, her. She is a banished dancer, and it hasn't been overtly discussed, but it's been slowly coming out that she probably did some murder in her time at court. She's an astrologer now, and her drive is to become part of the swirling court, something that requires her to have a lot of knowledge and a lot of money. And she is very, very thirsty for knowledge.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Gosh, I'm used to having a little period where we create characters. So I guess we just have to dive right into it, don't we? Yeah. Let's talk about Feast. I'm going to read the little color bit here, even though it's not something your characters would know. We operate on an out of character level very frequently in Trophy Gold. Deep in the earth it slumbers, ancient, unknowable, patient. It inhales, tugging on the mycorrhizal networks that vein the land, pulling in everything it needs: life, sustenance, people. There will be a ritual. The ancient thing will wake. There will be a feast. You all have been drawn to a forest for different reasons. Osto, some weeks ago you developed a small rash on your arm. And ever since you developed that rash, you have been compelled. Something is drawing you to this forest in the north. Esfahan, conveniently, a week ago, you watched a star fall from the sky into that same forest. As we know, of course, you have a lot of connection to stars. And so Osto's desire to go north now syncs up tidily with something that you might want to do. Nevin, obviously your brother being strangely compelled to the forest is probably something that would draw you, but I'll also say this. You know the loggers who work in this forest. Maybe you even did some logging in that forest for a time. What do you think? Did you actually work there for a time, or do you just know the fellas that work that part of the forest?
I think I probably know them. I think that's a good opportunity to bring my drive in. I feel like I have this history of being like an oppressed laborer, and now I have a new drive to free people from the Piper. So I feel like maybe there's like a whisper network. I've never worked there, but I've definitely been like communicating with them a little bit.
Good, I like it. Well, great reason to follow up. Everyone heading north. Now, we have a bit of, we actually have a little map since we're doing a non-trophy gold thing. That means there are maps. So I have not prepared it yet, so I'll upload that real quickly with a little Google drawing. And this is a mini hex crawl, and so out of character, we're going to be able to see what the hex crawl looks like, even if in character your characters don't really have any like understanding of, you know, going to this place or that place. You're just moving in through the space. As soon as I get this uploaded, I'll send it to you. There we go. And I'm going to make this editable so you all can mark on this as you wish. But you start in that little triangle on the left that says start here. Staging ground. An old log cabin on the edge of the forest. It, from the outside, and indeed if you were just sort of glancing it from a distance, you would think that it's just an abandoned old cabin. But as a little paint the scene question, even before you arrive at the cabin, even before you go inside, how do you know someone is in the cabin that is currently occupied? Someone new there. And indeed, maybe even a slight shading of that question, how can you tell you are not the only people to go into this forest in very recent days? You can combine those questions, I think.
I think that outside of the cabin, we see like larger supplies that people wouldn't have brought in with them. So maybe like a wagon filled with like big things that would be cumbersome to carry. That's obviously recent. Like it's not new. It's not covered in sort of the detritus of what's around.
Yeah, that's great.
I think along the path, like as the trees go in, you can see that people have been scratching in markings just one by one.
Very interesting. Maybe worth following up on, by the way. And Osta, what do you notice?
I think that there's a fairly ample amount of like boot prints in the ground that haven't been worn away by rain or other erosive forces, so they have to be fairly fresh.
Good. There is a set goal that is for the cabin. And that set goal is learn what Amanya knows. I'll type that for you. Now, of course, your characters have no idea who Amanya is, but as players, we know what the goal is. And so I think we'll just start. Esfahan, you are probably a few hundred yards away from the cabin at this point. The cabin is sort of right at the edge, the entrance to the forest. A good entrance because there's like an actual path, a proper path, as opposed to just trying to go through tangled terrain. What do you do?
I want to take a moment and look around outside the cabin and see if they've left any indicators out here that perhaps the cabin should not be approached.
Oh, very good. Go ahead and make a hunt roll. And so we'll just kind of go through that very step by step here. You get one light die just for asking the question or making the attempt. And then you get another light die if you have a relevant skill or if you're using a piece of equipment that would be helpful.
I have the skill symbols.
Interesting. And you did note that there were carvings in the trees, and so I think this feels appropriate here. Go ahead and do a hunt 2 on the die roller there. You get a 6 light, which is great. You get a token, so go ahead and note your hunt roll token. And we'll talk about what you find in a moment. For people watching the video who maybe are not familiar with Trophy Gold, the way this game works is the characters are going to be collecting hunt roll tokens as they search the area and do different adventure sort of things. As these tokens can be spent in one of two different ways. You can spend one token to find a treasure, which is what the characters need to do in order to meet their burdens. Their burdens is a score in treasure that the characters have to meet before they leave the adventure. Otherwise, their character retires into penniless destitution ultimately, and their character keeps living, but we don't no longer care about them, and so we don't play with them anymore. Or you can save up 3 tokens or pool 3 tokens with the other players in order to automatically achieve the set goal. Now, the set goals can be accomplished just by role play, but you can also spend the 3 tokens to do it automatically, which you might sometimes want to do, especially if you are if you're getting pretty hurt and you need to leave the adventure and you have not quite met all your burdens yet, right? So that's a great reason to spend. Or you might want to do that just because you think narratively it's an interesting time to accomplish the goal, right? So, but you have a token, Esfahan. And let's talk about these trees. I think it's really, really interesting. In fact, there are runes carved into the trees. The runes are they indicate burning. Almost like perhaps this tree is meant to be burned, or perhaps the rune itself burns, or perhaps there's some other message being conveyed about fire. That part's not clear. Probably whoever carved the runes, they know what it means, right? What do you do?
Well, seeing that this is most likely not some kind of protective barrier or spiky barrier around the cabin, I think I'm gonna approach the cabin, actually.
Let's check in with Osto. Osto, what are you doing right now?
I think Osto is observing the boot prints and foot traffic that this area has seen and trying to see if they go anywhere, if they've like gone off into the forest, if they've gone to this cabin, what the situation is.
Yeah, go ahead and make a hunt roll.
Okay. I have paths as a skill. Do we think that would apply here?
Yeah, I'll take it. It'll definitely affect the kind of information I give you, but yeah, I'll take it.
Okay, so light 2.
Sure.
5.
A 5. So what that means is you get a token, but you encounter something terrible. What you learn is always at my discretion, regardless of what the number is. And I think that there are 2 distinct paths that are being taken beyond the cabin towards the entrance to the forest. One is clearly towards logging. Your brother is a logger. Are you a logger as well? Or is that just Nevin?
That was just Nevin.
Okay.
He went into the logging. Osto was in mining.
As a little question for you, Osto, how do you know, or maybe even Nevin, if you want to chime in, how do we, like, looking at solely at the tracks, how can you tell it's loggers going that one way?
The treads on the shoes are interrupted by like chips of bark and things that have fallen off as they've been knocking the trees down.
It's perfect. I love it. There's another distinct set of sort of like tracks over time, or over, they're kind of going in another direction. And that path is going into what seems to be a very, very thick, tangled part of the woods. And there is a faint, powdery white substance on the ground around those tracks. There is a third path that is going kind of in the middle of the two. And it is bear tracks. With that information, what do you do, Osto?
I think Osto will go over to the path with the white powder and like run his fingers through it and taste a little bit of it. See if he recognizes it.
Oh, interesting. Make another hunt roll.
Okay. That's probably just a light 1. It's a 4.
Take another token. It smells like your rash. What is that smell like?
I think it smells sweet. Like if you've ever smelled like candied meats before. It's sweet, but there's something almost a little bit acrid underneath.
Nevin, you've started to notice the rash smell from Osto. What does it smell like?
I think to me it smells like early spring. Everything has melted. This is probably only going to make sense to David now that I think about this, but everything is like melted, and it's like all that dead stuff starts to smell like kind of like stinky dog poo and mold and gross mixed with like wet. It's that smell. It's spring smell.
Well, Nevin, maybe you were kind of checking out the tracks with Osto, but what do you do after that?
Well, if there's a bear, I feel like it's been well established that Nevin will go where the creatures are. So I'm inclined to head down that path, but also like for once not gonna like just charge down, but sort of like cast a glance back and see what everyone else is doing. But I would like to go and make friends with the bear.
Yeah, that sounds good. You can do that. Let's check in with Esfahan. Esfahan, just as for everyone, actually, as you are, well, let me follow with Osto real quick. As Osto, are you going with Nevin, or are you going to go into the cabin with Esfahan? Or something else?
I think Osto I think he'd be hesitant to leave into the forest without Esfahan. We all sort of came here together, different objectives, but like we all came here together. I think he'd be inclined to like go maybe as far as the tree line to take a look, but I think he still wants to wait for Esfahan and make sure that she makes it out of there okay.
Yeah, sounds good. So as you're all either going into the cabin or going a little deeper into the woods looking for bears, I will tell you that the weather, it's cold and humid. There's a threat of rain that's been kind of hanging in the air a bit, and it is making your skin and all the surfaces kind of wet and cold and slimy. And so there's a reprieve from that, Osto and Esfahan, when you go into the cabin, because there is a little fire lit in the cabin. Nevin, you get to keep being cold and wet. Let's talk about the cabin. When you step inside Esfahan, because I think you're first in, the place is cluttered with charts and maps and scraps of paper everywhere. Like if you've like I'm thinking about when I was in law school, I had a lot of my professors, like a lot of law professors, like they don't like organize anything. So you go into their offices and it's just piled all over the fucking place with books, just books everywhere. You have to move books to sit down, right? It's that kind of thing. There's just stuff everywhere. And there is a woman with a bunch of materials laid out on a table, hunkered over it. She barely turns to acknowledge that the front door is open. And she goes back and you can just kind of hear her muttering to herself as she's going over papers and documents and things and unrolling things and smoothing things out. And she's kind of saying things like, yes, that's it. Well, this has to be it. This has to be the place. I don't know where else. But what does it all mean? What does it all mean? Esfahan, what do you do?
Well, first off, this is a woman after my own heart. And seeing that she's been acknowledged but summarily ignored, she's going to actually go up to where this woman is poring over that paper and attempt to just kind of look at it and see what's happening there.
She looks up at you briefly and she looks you up and down and she says, well, you don't look like a logger, that's for sure.
Don't have the physique for it.
Yes, neither me. Loggers come through here all the time, though. I have very tried and true, highly effective ways of getting them to move on. And that's probably right when Osto comes in. And she's like, oh, perfect, watch. And she says, you, friend, come over here. Do you think you could possibly translate this reproduction of some hieroglyphs that were found? And she kind of shoves a paper into your, and it's just like fucking symbols you don't recognize. She's like, otherwise, head into the logging camp.
I think this one looks like a 7.
She takes the paper from you and she kind of gives you just this sort of like,
this one is a
praising
bird.
look. She rolls it up carefully in front of you, making very direct eye contact. She says, thank you. You weren't any help at all. Oh. The logging camp is just a little to the north of here.
I will go and check on the loggers. He looks over at Esfahan. You help with the document, I suppose. I will see you in the forest.
I will make my way there.
Oh, not, he like walks over to Esfahan. Not actually going over by the loggers. I think Nevin would like to find the bear. So there's a bear. You can't miss the tracks. These bear tracks. They're different from boots. Anyway, yeah, I will go to the logging camp. enjoy your bird, then 7.
After Osta leaves, she turns to you and says, "See, works every time. So, I have a feeling that you are here for scholarly inquiry, just like me. What is the nature of your inquiry?"
I'm an astrologer and I saw a star fall
Perfect,
here.
perfect. Yes, I saw that same star. That is what drew me here. I had been, well, I've heard stories about this place for some time, and I had been sort of honing in on where I needed to be, and then I saw the star, and although I normally easily dismiss out of hand sort of celestial movements and omens and signs, I thought, Amanya, maybe this is the time to embrace the superstitious, the symbols, the signs. Anyway, I ended up here. So what do you know about what's happening here?
No superstition, only reason with backing. But not much I
Well,
know about the
let me tell it
forest.
to you true. At the heart of the forest, I believe, in fact, I know, there is a standing stone. And I believe that this standing stone is the burial place of a powerful sorcerer whose magic leached into the earth over centuries. Can you even imagine such a thing? What sorts of things might grow up in a forest where a sorcerer and his magics were leaching into the earth for centuries? It's an incredible tangent of inquiry. Look at my hand. You see that? That's how excited I am about this. My hand trembles with excitement. So tell me of stars. What is the meaning of the star?
Meta, is this a paint the scene for me, as in I can just bullshit it
You can
entirely?
say whatever you want. I think she's open to all ideas.
Mhm. Well, it's actually rather related to the sorcerer in a way, now that you've given me the context. It was part of a constellation, actually, the tail end of this magical constellation. It shifts with time, unlike most. And a few weeks ago, or a few days ago, it broke off and launched itself here, which, if you know anything about the stars, you know that's not common behavior.
Indeed not. I will take your word on it. I am not much of a, well, I sort of deal in more terrestrial lines of inquiry. What was your name, by the way?
Esfahan, pleasure to
Esfahan.
make your acquaintance.
I am Amanya. Yes. She shakes your hand. She does that thing where she shakes your hand, doesn't look at your face, so she doesn't. She looks down at the papers. And she says, these texts, which I believe are connected to this standing stone, or at least this place, they seem to indicate that there is a ritual that will give life to a spirit somewhere in this land. Now, these texts are incomplete. They're in Old Kalduri, which I am ashamed to admit that I am a little rusty on at the moment, as is 99.9% of the current living population. But as I've been working to restore it, I've come to believe that there is a spirit here. This spirit is called Palun Evegthi. Palun Evegthi. Isn't that interesting? I suspect there's probably a more correct, older, more ancient Old Kalduri name. This is just what we're able to speak with our sort of inadequate tongues. Palun Evegthi. I suspect the spirit is somewhere beneath that standing stone. And I suspect that there is a connection to your falling star.
It is highly likely.
Palun Evegthi. The very name sounds ancient and filled with portent. I must know more.
Well, my friend, the one that you sent to the logging camp, actually knows a fair bit about rituals.
Oh, interesting. Here, take a look at this. And she shoves a document in front of you to get your opinion on it. Meanwhile, Nevin. Said bear. Fat brown bear, stripping berries from branches. What do you do?
Okay. I know I said I would try to take this seriously, but I feel like the way that, as we've previously established, Nevin really likes to dance to sort of like express himself. And so I feel like one of the ways that he connects with animals is to do various animal dances. And so I think he's gonna do like a bear dance.
In
To see-
order to do what?
To forge a friendship with this bear.
Oh, intriguing. This feels
AKA
risky.
not get murdered by it, most likely, but
This feels risky. I will tell you, as you are beginning your dance, you will notice that the bear has patches of white fungus in its fur, and there are faint clouds of white spores drifting around him. Just a thing to be observant of.
okay.
But let's talk about dice. So we're going to do a risk roll. The first thing we do for the risk roll is Kavya, David, and myself, out of character, get to say what we think could happen if you fail with your attempt to make friends with the bear. So Kavya and David, do you have any ideas? None of this is binding. It's just kind of brainstorming.
Absolutely. The moment you said white patches, perhaps the dance endears the bear to the group, but it's not actually because of the dance. It's because of something to do with that rash that's calling them to the forest. And we have no idea what it's going to do to us eventually.
I think it's pretty straightforward. The bear just attacks you.
Yeah, I was going to say, who doesn't love a good bear mauling? So,
Indeed. This came up on my as this little tangent in my podcast that I make called Fear of the Black Dragon. We were talking about like animal encounters, right? And Tom and I both noted that like bears don't need anything to be made like equal to other monsters, right? Bears, like especially grizzly bears, they are ferocious like on their own terms, you know. So with all that said, let's talk
I
about
would just
dice.
like to interject though and be like, have you ever seen a black bear though? Because
well, I lived in New Jersey.
they
and
are very useless.
Yeah, I lived in Jersey, and black bears were super common. Like we would have black bears like just walk up to our cars, and like just like, kind of like look around and go away, you know, wander off. But okay, let's talk about dice. So we've sort of hashed out some possible things for if you fail. Now let's talk about your die pool. You get one light die if you have a relevant skill or piece of equipment, or if you're using the environment in some particular way. What do you think?
Let me look at what beasts, of course. I was like, there's a reason I love
beasts.
animals. It's
Easy.
beasts.
Yeah. You got one light die. And now the second light die you get is if you accept a devil's bargain. A devil's bargain is something that will happen in the game no matter what. So, for example, since there might be people who've never experienced this before, watching the video, if Nevin was trying to jump across a crevasse, somebody might offer the devil's bargain, like no matter what, you drop your axe down into the crevasse. And if you succeed at the die roll, it's because the axe slips out of your hand, right? If you fail at the die roll, it's because you also go down the crevasse, right? That's a simple devil's bargain. Or the devil's bargains can be more complex. They can like implicate your drives. They can implicate other characters. They can create whole new elements in the story. So with all that said, myself, Kavya, and David each get to offer a devil's bargain if we wish, and if you accept one, you get the light die. So any devil's bargains?
I was going to say that as you're performing your dance, I think the bear will come up to sniff you, and it's only polite custom for you to like sniff the bear back. And so I think you're going to inhale quite a few of these spores.
Intriguing. I like that a lot. I'll second that one, that you become spore infected.
Cannot top that.
You've got one offer, Alicia.
Yeah, well, I mean, literally, I wrote it in the chat for anyone who's like not watching. I was like, I want to be covered in fungus.
Okay, well, you got two light dice then.
Yes, yeah.
I'm not going to make you roll a dark die yet, because I think your skill would give you a chance for this to be fundamentally safe until it's not. So go ahead and roll risk with two light dice. You have a 5 light. It's a 5 and a 2, but the 5 is what we care about. That is a success, but there's a complication of some sort. The complication is going to be that you will obviously get the bear to your side, and that's great. I think the complication is you're going to discover that the bear is being overtaken by the fungus. If you're okay with that, we can let it ride. Otherwise, you can add a dark die and try to succeed to where the bear is not affected by the fungus.
Here's a safety tool check-in. One of my
I know. We'll keep it
line-
off screen. Yeah.
Okay, all right. But we are going in that level of like it. Okay, well then I gotta save the bear, so I'll add a dark die and roll. I'm rolling 2 light die again, right? Plus
Yeah,
the dark die?
you roll the whole thing, 2 light, 1 dark. That is a 3 dark, which means you fail. So that's going in a whole different direction.
Yep.
So and it's dark is high, so you can't re-roll either. And you are going to take in the spores. You're going to take the condition white fungus infection. So go ahead and note that on your character sheet. And it's not going to work well. You got a 3, which is a fairly high fail. So I think that all that happens is the bear is going to just like kind of be frightened and angry and run off, but you will always be aware of it. Like it never like quite lets you out of its sight. But go ahead and describe how this goes poorly.
Yeah, I actually think that my bear dance is on point. It might be the best bear dance I've ever done. But obviously something is clearly wrong with this bear, right? It's covered in this fungus. And so the bear doesn't seem to be in control of itself, I feel like. And so even though my bear dance is on point, it's like the bear like wants to connect with me and something like pulls it back. And I also think that's why it doesn't attack me though, because like it doesn't want to attack me, but whatever is going on with it is like what's pulling it away. So I'm like doing my bear dance, and I kind of also love the idea that Osa like walks up to me as I'm doing my bear dance, and I'm like feeling really good about it. And then the bear is just like, fuck this, like walks away.
Let's just have the scene with Osto and Nevin.
I found the bear.
Yeah, Osto like stepping over a log and sort of carefully making his way across the brush in the forest says, "Oh, I saw him walking away. Usually if you find a bear, the bear sticks around. Where did it go?"
There was something very wrong with that bear. I mean, you saw my dance. It was a good dance.
Yeah,
Great
of
dance.
course. Oh, yeah, stellar.
No, but the bear, it had this like mushrooms or something on it. And I don't think that it was there. Maybe we should follow it. Maybe we should make sure it's okay.
I will say that Osto, your rash smells really strong right here.
Yeah, I think I was going to ask, this bear, the condition you described, does it smell like this? And he like offers his arm closer to Nevin to sniff.
I'm gonna actually say that now that's all I can think I can smell is the rash, because I've sort of inhaled those spores. And so yeah, that's all. Like I smell, I'm like, I smell over there. Yes, everything smells like that.
I think we are in the right place then. Perhaps if we follow the bear deeper in, we will find what is causing this smell.
And
I will leave a note for Esfahan, and Osta will just like carve an arrow in one of the trees, the direction that we're heading off.
Let's check in with Esfahan. So, Esfahan, are you like in earnest trying to help Amanya like figure out what's going on?
Um, yes, she also wants to know what's going on.
Go ahead and just make a hunt roll. We'll see how well that goes. I think between stars and symbols, you'll be able to get 2 light dice on it. So, and that is a 2. So you encounter something terrible. A 2 and a 1 is 2. Okay. Amanya looks up at you. Let me check lines and veils real quick, actually, before I go any further. Okay. Amanya looks up at you and she says, I have it all figured out. I know. I know what's going on. And I think during this, you've been like talking about stars, and there's a scene we didn't see where you're kind of going through all this stuff together. She says, "Yes, Palunavekthi, the spirit. There are caves and tunnels beneath the standing stone. That is where it can be found. Palunavekthi is in those tunnels beneath the standing stone. That's what others are doing here. There have been people entering the forest in recent weeks who are not loggers. They have been seeking it. But how? How to get into the tunnels? I myself have been to that standing stone several times, and I've seen no way. But these documents clearly indicate such. And she kind of like takes your hands, Esfahan, and she says, Esfahan, I feel a rather intimate connection to you, even in just the short time that we've known each other. There is something about scholarly inquiry that lengthens the time. Trees speak to me, Esfahan. They speak to me. At first it was just runes, carved years ago. But now it is more, as of late. They tell me, they warn me away. I cannot allow anyone to pursue the standing stone. I cannot allow anyone to go into the tunnels. And she has you see now, she has a knife that has kind of fallen to her side in her hand, Esfahan. He says, I understand now what I must do. The trees spoke to me of stars. But I realize now that the stars were but a metaphor, a figurative manner of speech and expression. You are the stars that I must prevent from falling, so to speak, down. What do you do, Esfahan? She's clearly about to stab you.
She has both my hands in hers, right?
Just the one right now. The other one's got a knife. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, good. I'm not gonna let go of the hand, but I'm going to very slowly go for my own knife and see if I can beat her to the stabbing.
Let's just do a combat. She's an endurance 6. No, she's a 5. She's an easy fight. She's a 5. And tell me how you're vulnerable right now.
I have limited mobility, and this went south far further and far earlier than I expected it to.
So go ahead and roll a weak point. This is the number that is problematic in the combat roll. It's a 1. Okay, good. And now go ahead and do a combat 1. You're looking for a 5 or higher. Okay, that's a 4. It's not good enough, but it did not hit your weak point. So there's basically just a struggle, but no one's hurt. What does it look like?
I think we're both trying to prevent the other from stabbing by maneuvering the shared hand. And it would be funny if it weren't a life and death situation.
Go ahead and do the combat 2 for the next round, and now we're looking for 5 in total. 2 and a 1, not good enough, and the 1 is your weak point, so she gets a hit on you unless you mark armor. Go ahead and describe this next round of combat.
I think as we're trying to do this, she has my dominant hand in hers, and her free hand is her dominant. So she manages to get me off guard by with a particularly crafty twist. And then as I'm off balance, she just slices me.
Let's go ahead and do the third round. You roll 3 dice now, but we just add the 2 highest. You're looking for 5.
That's 1 more ruin, right?
Yeah, your ruin goes up, by 1.
Yep.
There you go. 6 and 4 and a 4. So 6 and 4 is 10, more than enough to defeat her. Go ahead and describe how you end Amanya.
So as she slices at me, initially I was a little mad, a little sad because I did like her. I haven't had someone to speak scholarly to in a very long time. But I am furious now. So I take the dagger and first I drive it into the hand that I'm holding. And then as she kind of clutches it, I drive it into the base of her throat.
Nevin and Osto, you're not aware of any of that, of course, but you do hear screaming coming from the direction of the logging camp. Let's take a 5-minute break. So the set goal in the cabin is accomplished. You have learned what Amanya knew as Fahen. But I will recap just so that as players, we're very aware of what's going on here. So there is a standing stone at the heart of the forest, and it does, well, this information is probably a little unreliable, just bear that in mind. But this is what Amanya believes, or believed. There's a standing stone at the heart of the forest that underneath which there are some tunnels, at the heart of which is a local or a spirit called Palunavegthi. And I'll spell that for you. It's not spelled how it sounds, but you might want to know it anyway. Let's have to look it up. Yeah, okay. That is pronounced Palunavegthi. It's actually Palun. There you go. So there's a spirit at the heart of the tunnels called Palunavegthi, and there's some way of accessing these tunnels, but Amanya was never able to figure out how to access them. So Osto and Nevin, you hear a scream coming from the direction of the logging camp. Do you follow it?
Nevin, you have experience with logging. That is not a good sound, right?
No, not usually. Usually means someone got crushed by a tree or lost
Whatever
a
it
limb.
is, it's ongoing. You hear like more than one person.
Big tree.
Yeah, either the whole forest is coming down, which would be bad for everyone, or maybe more bears. Perhaps you could help soothe them.
Yes, I guess. Don't know where the bear went, so.
The number of voices that are screaming is rapidly dropping. We are now down to one voice screaming at this point.
Osto will carve another arrow in one of the trees, add a little bowl icon, so Esfahan knows that it's from him. And then he'll motion to Nevin and start heading in the direction of the screaming.
Esfahan, you'll hear the screaming as well. This area is not that huge. What do you do?
I'm gonna take Amanya's knife, and then does she have one particular, like there was that big parchment? Was that the main thing she was looking at?
It's just a variety of documents and papers and maps and things. If you just want to grab some of it, you can.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
That was the goal, yeah.
You can add the knife and
And-
Amanya's work, or whatever, however you want to describe it, to your found equipment.
Mhm. Yep, done. I'm going to resheath my knife, very emphatically not wipe the blood off of myself. And before I get to the screaming, figure out where Osto and Nevin got off to. Because I'm not approaching that by myself.
Yeah, I mean, I think like as soon as you come out of the cabin, you'll be able to pick up pretty quickly like where all the action is taking place. At this point, if we're looking at the map, we are in hex 1 on the map, or the one labeled 1. And there is a set goal, which is for the entire little hex crawl. And that set goal is gain access to the tunnels beneath the standing stone. So, Osto and Nevin, you get over to the, well, Osto, Nevin, did you go as well? Okay. You get to the logging camp. There are fresh stumps and fallen trunks. The air is thick with sawdust and sap, but also blood. There are a pair of tents that have been crushed and torn apart. There is warm blood dripping from leaves, soaking the earth, turning the soil black. Strings of wet flesh are strung delicately between branches, almost like holiday tinsel. There is one logger, alive. You might even know him, Nevin. Rupert. His hands have been torn off, leaving tattered stumps, and he's desperately trying to apply tourniquets to his own stumps without hands. And he's screaming and crying as his blood pumps into the earth. And he looks up at the two of you with bandages flailing between his arms, blood spurting, and he just says, "You have to get out of here. Get out of here. Go. Run. Run."
Is it at all visible what caused the damage to the tents, or
Make a hut roll.
okay? The best I have skill wise is a skill in weapons.
I don't think that's quite good enough.
Right.
Do you have a piece of equipment that might be helpful?
I could have. I'm assuming there's like a telescope of some kind, or like
I don't
looking
know.
through the potential equipment.
Oh yeah, to check the drop downs. Maybe let's see here.
I'm thinking if he has something to basically like take a closer look from a distance.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
Sort of like a
Oh, spyglass.
Spyglass.
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
All right. You can take a spyglass. Roll 2 dice.
Okay. as a 4.
Take your token. The terrible thing you encounter is the answer. The trees did this. How do you know the trees did it?
I think that there's a large root that is just draped over the center of where those tents once stood. And you can't build a tent under a root. So,
Nevin, tell me about how you know Rupert.
I think that Rupert and I were both freed from our previous employer. I don't think that he was as much of a main player in that thing, but I think that we worked together before. Also, I would like to bandage him up. That is my instinct to run forward.
Yeah.
And yeah.
He'll look at you as you're doing it. He's got, sweat breaking out. So the sweat is actually like kind of freezing to his face because it's so cold right now. And he says, Nevin, is that you?
Yes, I didn't expect to find you here. What are you doing here?
Nevin, the trees came alive. They started tearing us apart. And you'll see, the trees did a number on the other loggers. You'll see in addition to the strips of flesh, you'll see cloth. You'll see, busted tools. The place is just a wreck. And he says, hi. Thank you. But we have to get out of here. We have to get out of here as soon as we're able to.
How did you survive?
And he says, a bear came by, and I don't know. It's as if the trees stopped to let it pass. They only got this far, as he holds up his bandaged stumps. Esfahan, are you arriving now?
Yeah, I guess.
Exciting. I'm sure you're anxious to be here. What do you do?
I take a minute to take in this lovely scene, and I think I'm just gonna call out, was it the trees? Because Amanya was also talking about.
Amanya mentioned the trees, yeah. You all can quickly confirm that for Esvan if you wish.
Yeah, Osto yells back, "Oh, Esvan, seems that way. I am regretting carving those notes now. Hopefully they did not notice."
I put paper in your packs for a reason.
Well, that is also made from trees. Would it not also anger them?
Well, it's made from different trees, not trees from here.
Okay, look, you two. If anyone is in danger, it is I, the one who has murdered the most trees. Also, Rupert.
And
we need to get Rupert to safety.
He says, but there are so many trees. Why should the forest care if we take a small portion? We always replant. And he's just kind of babbling on at this point.
I don't think it's about that.
What was the cabin you were at? Is it safe to bring him back there? That should be far enough away from the danger, hopefully.
It's a little messy, but it's safe.
You can do that. Are you going to haul Rupert back to the cabin?
Yeah, Osto will probably grab him above the elbow, so it's a little further away from the damage, and try to sort of balance him against his own shoulder, drop it down a little bit for him, and try to walk him back there. If he can't walk because he's lost too much blood, then he'll just carry him.
Princess, carry him.
Yeah, you can get him back. And when you kind of get him situated in the cabin, he'll thank you, and He'll thank you, and he'll say, "There are others that have gone into the woods. It's the stone. That standing stone in the heart of the forest. That's what they seek. I don't know if that's what you've come looking for." I'll also point out you'll see Amanya dead as well in the cabin, just worth pointing that out.
I think Oster just sort of sees her. At this point, I think he is carrying what's our friend who's entered
Rupert.
here? Rupert. He's
yeah.
carrying Rupert. And he sees Amanya lying there, and he just sort of pushes her under the table with his foot so she's less obvious.
Yeah.
And then sets him down in a chair there.
And yeah, he's kind of, and so he just continues. He's like, I warned the others. I warned the others that this place was cursed, that we shouldn't try to cut the trees here, that there was something going on, something terrible. I could feel it. I could sense it. And now the very forest has risen up to protect whatever is in the heart of it.
Is this standing stone? They're looking for it. Is it valuable? Is it just a stone?
He passes out at this point.
Okay. Well,
Blood loss and all that.
So, I know that you think I'm crazy because of my bear dance, but Rupert said that the bear saved them. So, I think we should look for the bear.
Sorry, you met the bear?
Yes. He did not like my dance.
it was a very good dance.
Bad
Don't beat
taste.
yourself up about it,
Thank you.
Nevin. Well, perhaps we should bring something to attract the bear. It was eating some berries when you found it, right, Nevin?
Yes. I also had that fungus. That fungus that smells like your rash. Maybe if you just wave it around, the bear will come.
What? Let's try both ways. Get some berries. I will hold it. I will wave around my arm with the berries and the rash. We will find the bear.
Rub the berries against the rash. Should
Two
help with the
birds, one
scent.
rash. Excellent.
So taking a look at our little map here, you've been to the first hex, which is basically the loggers' camp. You can press forward in any direction you wish. Would you go more to the north, more to the south? Would you continue deeper into the forest? What do we think?
Can we find the bear tracks and see which way the bear went? If
I
it
think
walked
the bear-
through the lumber
The bear would have
camp,
gone up to the north
Okay.
hex. Yeah.
then I say follow the bear tracks.
And on the map, did Amanya have a vague location for that standing stone?
Yes, that's in 4. So
So that's east.
east. Yeah.
I don't mind taking a detour to the north and then back down.
Yeah, I think Oster would support that plan. His thought is that those trees did a number on those loggers, and if this bear happened to stop their aggression in some fashion, then maybe it is a good idea to find the bear.
Indeed. Let's see how the weather is going right now, shall we? It is still cold and wet. So, as you are making your way up, this is, I think, kind of following the bear tracks for a time. Probably you follow it until essentially the end of the day. You're going to have to make camp soon. The area that you've gone into is densely packed beech forest. There's thick moss coating the forest floor and the trunks of the trees. And beneath the trees, there's actually these very delicate white orchids thriving in what is otherwise dry, chalky soil. Bramblings and nuthatches hide in the canopy, and you can hear the yaffle, yaffle, yaffle of green woodpeckers in the air. No sign of the bear right away. Osto, what do you do?
It's fairly tranquil right now. You said it's probably getting late enough that we might consider making camp, right?
Yeah, pretty soon. Yeah, I don't think you're going to be able to leave this hex without making camp. Yeah, unless you
Okay.
want to go in the night. So,
I think Osto's been kind of waving around this branch with berries on it, rubbing them on his rash, maybe making bear calls. I don't know what that would sound like, but he's trying it.
I don't think it's getting anywhere.
Yeah, no. So I think he's getting like a little bit tired from doing all this effort, and so he looks over to the others. Well, I have not found the bear, and it is getting darker. These woods seem dangerous. I suppose we should make camp and try to stay safe. How do we make camp when the trees themselves are the enemy? Potentially. And he like sort of like taps on one of the trees. I think you're perfectly fine. No animosity between us.
Yeah, I think it's probably best we do not chop or harm or burn the trees in any way, shape, or form. But the moss is comfortable. Can just lay down in a circle, head to feet, watch for trees.
We can't hear you, Esfahan. I'm not sure why.
Yeah, I figured out why. I can take watch for a bit and try to ward us from whatever may come in the night. I can't do it for too long, though.
I think that's a good idea. Are you going to... What kind of camp are we talking about here? It is cold. It's only going to get colder. You can probably make a fire and not offend the trees too much, as long as you're not actively burning things, I guess. I will say that this little particular like tangle of beach is a little different from where the logging camp was, right? Beach is not like a, I don't think it's this part of the forest is you're right, Osto. It has a more like tranquil feel to it.
Mm-hmm. I think Osto would, at best, he would collect like only very dead branches.
Yeah.
Dry ones if he can find them, obviously, for fire.
I think taking those like sort of like intentionally careful steps will serve you well. So
yeah, but yeah, he'll construct a small fire away from anything else living, on as dry a patch of ground as he can find. But beyond that, I think normally he would probably be inclined to construct some kind of shelter here, but I don't think he thinks he can really do that without cutting into a tree one way or another, and I think he's a little too hesitant to do that.
In the spirit of the module feast, what is everyone what is everyone pulling from their pack to eat around the fire?
I think Osto has just brought some fairly tough dried, like just dry bread. I think maybe like a couple small pieces of jerky, but I think he was expecting coming into this forest that he would probably trap or catch something. But seeing the way that the nature has been responding here, I think he's a little bit hesitant to do any of that. Or at least he doesn't want to be the first one to try it.
I think that I have just decided in this moment that apparently Nevin is just just me, but dumber and bigger muscled. I think that Nevin loves animals too much to eat them. So I think that he pulls out some like dried fruits. Yeah, some sort of rugged, maybe a little bit stale, day or two old bread. Also happily shares with people, just like gives whatever. I don't know what kind of fruits grow here, but they would be like relatively common, I feel like, for the area fruits, nothing exotic or anything.
I think Esfahan, alongside her rations, because she assumed this would be a long trip, it's really hard to track down these things, has packed a few fresh sandwiches, and she eats one herself, but she also hands some to Osto and Nevin, because those are going to spoil. They will not keep.
Watch. Esfahan, you can be working on your ward while you're on your watch. And a pig on a leash comes right up to the perimeter of your ward. It had its nose down to the ground and it just stops. And that's how you know your ward is working. And the man on the other side of the leash, or on the other end of it, he looks up and he sees your two sleeping companions and you in the fire. And he says, it's like, hello. Sorry, I didn't mean to disturb anything. Just a bit of nighttime truffle hunting.
First of all, should I roll for that ward because it is a ritual?
No, I like it just as a in the fiction for now. It works. You only need the roll if you're like under pressure, but since you have all the time in the world to do it, you're okay.
Wow. We're not super deep in the forest, but we are kind of deep. We got through a lot of carnage to get here. Does this person look ruffled at all?
Make a hunt roll. You got a 2, which means you encounter something terrible. He keeps scratching his arm. He has a very, very advanced form of the rash. But what do you respond?
I'm going to ignore the truffle hunting comment altogether, and I'm going to cut straight to the point. How long have you had that?
He says, oh, he says, just a hazard of the trade. You sometimes find the wrong mushrooms. That, of course, not to cast any aspersions on you, old boy, as he like slaps the pigs kind of affectionately, you know. This is just a bit of a bad a bit of a bad fungal encounter.
I see. Well, you should move on.
Oh yes, I don't mean to be any I don't mean to disturb anyone. The pig really, really wants to smell Nevin. It's like it's trying to it keeps kind of going around the perimeter of the ward, like trying to snuffle at Nevin. He says, we'll be on our way. He says, say I heard some, I thought I heard some cries of anguish, some screaming earlier today. Do you know anything about that?
Not personally, but I did hear there were some accidents at the logger camp.
Oh, that's terrible. That's terrible. Well, I'm headed in that direction now. Maybe I'll. I usually bed down there for the night whenever I'm in the area, but it sounds like perhaps they are a little indisposed at the moment.
You should try the cabin, perhaps. And since your pet is so attached to my friend, I wouldn't mind harboring them for a bit.
You want to harbor Elmer?
Yes.
Oh, I can't let anyone. I appreciate the offer truly, but we'll be okay. And he kind of tugs Elmer along. As he's walking away, you catch in the firelight the fungus has spread up the back of his neck like tendrils, and it's actually moving faintly like fingers.
Been a pleasure meeting you.
He's like, yes. And he goes on.
That man is dead.
What do you do, though? Why do you suppose the pig was so interested in Nevin?
Well, we know it's a rash, and I saw that this person had the very same. It's not a normal rash. It's been calling Nevin Osto to this forest forever. It smells really funky. The fact that it smells different to all three of us is an indicator of something. And this is some kind of truffle hunting pig, meaning mushrooms. And I think since I was talking to Amanya about the sorcery and what things might grow from it, I think we have invasive magical mushrooms. And as soon as I can get someone to take over watch, I'm going to see if I can ward that patch of skin against the fungus.
Oh, that's an interesting idea. I think Osto's infection is too far along, but Nevin, the fungal infection is pretty fresh, and you might actually be able to pull that off. I will check in to make sure that Alicia is okay with a warding of the fungus on Nevin, because maybe Osto is next watch and you just sort of do this without Nevin knowing. But as long as Alicia's cool with that, we can do it.
Yeah, I think Nevin, whatever, Nevin's asleep. It's fine. I don't think Nevin even knows, like I said in the chat, I don't think Nevin is even aware that he's infected with the fungus. Just thinking about this bear, you know?
I think if you succeed, though, it'll clear the condition. So, Esfahen, let's talk about what could go wrong if you fail. Alicia, David,
well,
any thoughts?
First off, before so I don't know Nevin's infected, so I think instead I'm gonna redo the approach, which is I'm warding our entire area against the fungus.
Oh, okay, I'll take that too. I like that. Yeah, it'll have the effect of clearing it off of Nevin. That's an interesting angle, and I like it. David, Alicia, what could go wrong here?
I mean, you could like have a reversal of the spell and like, oops, all fungus everywhere now.
I had a similar idea. Yeah.
I also was thinking that clearing the fungus might upset the forest in some way.
That's an interesting angle too. I like those ideas. I don't think I have anything to add. Let's talk about dice. Do you have a relevant skill here? Or maybe this might
Only
be good.
that we're doing it in the dark, but I don't think that counts.
Yeah, I'm not sure that's quite good enough. But certainly you probably have a piece of equipment that will work.
I can look for one that will help. Chalk?
Yeah, I like that to draw the space. Okay, go ahead and use the use of chalk and go ahead and well, let's talk about dice. You've got one light die. Devil's bargains. This could be an interesting devil's bargain situation. What do we think is going on here? What could happen?
I think that no matter what, you end up infected with the fungus, either because it goes horribly wrong or because that's how you clear it from other people. It's like you bring it into yourself.
You bring it into yourself. Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to say that no matter what, you make the fungus is intelligent and you make contact with it.
No, I'm here for that one. I really like that one.
I really like that one. And if we're actually rolling for this, that means I'm properly using magic, which means mental links, many mental links.
Yeah, I mean, let's. You've got 2 light dice, and you're going to do ward, which is a dark die. So go ahead and roll risk 2 light, 1 dark. 6 light. There you go. Give me the magic first, and in particular, how can you tell that the fungus is leaving Nevin? And Nevin, you'll get to clear that condition.
So I already had the basics of the ward laid out around us. It's 2 concentric circles with some runes written at particular intervals inside the border. For expelling the fungus, I added some, which is why I was unsure if it would work or not, because not something I do often. And I expected that I would see the fungus leaving Osto, but to my surprise, instead, as Nevin is sleeping and breathing in and out, every exhale just contains these spores, and they're kind of floating around before evacuating the circle.
I love it. I'm going to, as the devil's bargain, I'm going to give you a condition to memorialize making contact with the fungus. I don't want to quite define that yet. I'm going to take a minute for that. Except I will say this, or I'll ask you this. How do you sense initially that the fungus has some sort of bizarre intelligence?
Well, I was suspicious of it, so it's easier to convince me now than would have been before because of the moving tendrils. But the way that it swirls and evacuates the circle isn't as though it's being blown by wind. In fact, there's very little wind despite it being so fucking cold and humid. It instead exits Nevin and then sort of makes a conscious spiral, sort of slowly going outward to figure out where the edge of the circle is, and then exits.
Intriguing. Osto, are you taking next watch? Sounds like.
Yeah, Osto will take next watch. He's I think he wakes up feeling a little bit more refreshed than he was expecting. He stokes the fire. He made a small pile of the dead branches that he collected, so he adds some to it, and yeah, he'll take next watch.
You're on watch next. And let's check the weather. On your watch, the weather does change. Yours is the last watch before the sun comes up. And it's almost like jarring. Like before you even notice the sky pinkening, just a single shaft of sunlight pierces through the beach and just cuts through the camp. And your watch ends otherwise without incident. It is morning time. You can keep searching around this beach forest if you wish, but you haven't heard the bear. There's no real indication what's going on there.
Does that mean that we've like totally lost, I guess in the moss and stuff, we've lost any bear tracks potentially?
Well, you can do a hunt roll, try to find them again, but for now, you're basically you're either pressing a little south or a little east, I guess. Yeah.
I think Esfahan will definitely mention that they should check out that standing stone. Ostensibly for the star, obviously, but the thing that called Osto here is probably there.
I agree we should go to the stone. But the stone seems to be back in the direction of the murder trees. And we have no protection.
Well, it is a tree. It cannot be too fast. If it attacks us, we run away.
Did you see the camp? Did you see Rupert?
It surprised them. I'm sorry. Are you telling me that a tree would not get the drop on you if you did not know the tree could move? But we know that the trees can move.
Do you think they grow legs?
I think the roots move. Aren't roots tree legs in a way?
I think Osto did point out that the roots had like moved over part of the camp, right?
So we're saying that the trees put their roots out like little octopus tentacles and then along the ground.
Now that you put it that way, I think maybe some protection would be in order. That does not sound pleasant.
Although I should say it's not in the exact same direction. We need to move forward. A little diagonally, but forward.
Okay, but watch for the bear, because the bear protected Rupert. I think I can be friends with him if I do my dance again.
Of course.
So Hex 4 then? Hex 4. Yeah. You head a little south in the direction of Amanya's map that marked off the standing stone. And it's only about an hour or so. Unlike yesterday, the sun is blazing. It is very warm. It's like the sun is like taking revenge on the cold, just burning it away, right? It's making it muggy because it's wet, but it initially, at least, it feels a little more pleasant than it did yesterday. You eventually arrive at a giant standing stone. It is 2 feet thick. It is sort of a gray-black in color, and it's quite imposing. It is probably as tall as like 2 of you, right? Old graffiti and fading paint is on the stone, and all sorts of crude obscenities and things have been painted on it over the years. You can investigate it a little bit more if you get closer to it. But it's kind of in the middle of a clearing where there are no trees around it. Esfahan, what do you do?
Esfahan is transfixed by the stone, actually. It's a relic and presumably somehow protecting a spirit. So she's just gonna go straight to it and seeing the graffiti attempt to clean it off first.
You can take a hunt roll, assuming you're also examining it.
Do I get a die for symbols since there's a lot of writing
Sure.
on
Yeah,
this?
I'll take it. Three. 3 and a 3. You encounter something terrible. The most interesting detail of the stone is that there have been 3 holes carved all the way through it. You have seen this arrangement of 3 marks before on Osto. The rash appears with 3 kind of like rash marks, pustules, I don't know, whatever. But that's how it appears on the skin. You also noticed it on the man, the truffle hunter. His was more advanced, but you saw that distinct tri pattern. What do you do?
She's gonna call back to Osto. Osto, can I borrow your arm for a bit?
As long as it stays attached to me, sure.
Too soon,
Attachment is
Osto.
no problem.
Yeah, are you just confirming this, Esfahan?
No, I want to somehow, since this is a very tall rock, we'll figure it out slowly, but the end goal is to get the marks lined up with the holes on the stone and kind of press against them.
Oh, what an intriguing idea.
Could I offer a slight tweak on that? You said it's very sunny now today, and there are these 3 holes in the stone. It's still early in the day, so the light would be directional. Could we try to line up the marks on the rash with the patches of light of the shadow cast by the stone?
What an interesting idea. Yeah, I like it. Here's the basic problem. I love this as a plan. I think it's a very good plan. This works, right? The light will go through the holes and it will hit, you can like line it up with like maybe some of the rashes on Osto's chest. The problem is Osto's rash isn't advanced enough, and so the marks don't line up properly. The rash has to get worse.
Should have taken that man with us, suppose.
Well, I don't know anything about, but out of character, he said he was going to the logging cabin or the loggers camp, so we could just go and bring him back.
Except
whether we want to
Meta,
or not.
I'm pretty sure he's possessed. Like it was already pretty far along.
I mean, you can tell, you can obviously tell Nevin that. And if he's still, it was fairly late. If he's still around, he wouldn't have gotten any further than the cabin at this point, right? So if you hurry, you might be able to catch him, but who knows? If we think this is how this is going to do something, which I've not confirmed, by the way.
I mean, I feel like out of character, we're sort of limited for options. So do we know for sure that the problem is that the rash is not advanced enough? That's in character knowledge.
Well, to make the sunlight line up with the marks,
Okay.
it's not advanced enough.
Okay.
Whether that does something or not is completely
Right. Yes.
not on the table yet.
I think
So we can just wait it out and like let poor Osto get worse.
And then
Or
Osto
wait
will
for
be
some
possessed.
other random person to walk through the forest. But here's the thing. So here's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
The graffiti indicates that people are coming in here fairly regularly. Also, apparently not possessed enough by the rash to not attack the stone with their weird graffiti. So we could just wait and see if more people come by, but we might end up in the same position. But also, Nevin wants to know, I want to know why some people appear to be possessed by the fungus and not others.
So what do you do?
Keeping that question in mind, because it is a very interesting line of inquiry, the next step is just having the rash touch the stone just directly and hope something moves. Scientific process.
Osta will touch this strange obelisk in the middle of the forest, sure.
With the rash.
Yeah, rash first.
Make a hunt roll, Osta.
Yeah. Hey, we're testing theories.
I'll let you have 2 dice for using the rash.
Okay.
So.
Okay. There's a 4.
Take a token, but you encounter something terrible. Rubbing your rash against the stone doesn't do anything. And the terrible thing you encounter. Nevin, I think you're the first to see it, while the other 2 agonize over the stone. A undulating, oozing, ooze, black in color, but covered with fine black fur, has spread itself around the standing stone and therefore around all of you. Pseudopod extensions begin to rise up from this ooze. The thing is about to attack. We are going to take a 5-minute break. There is a black ooze that has surrounded you all around the stone. It's combat. Please say how you're vulnerable and roll your weak point.
I haven't even noticed this ooze.
What's your weak point? A 6.
That's unfortunate.
This is unfortunate. Osto?
Osto is... I think Osto is not ready for this because he had come to expect, potential issues with the wildlife, potential issues with some spores and stuff to avoid, maybe even some trees. But this is an ooze. What is he supposed to do against some ooze?
A furry ooze at that.
Yeah. So I think he's just kind of like taking out his cudgel with the hope in his heart that it might do something against this creature, but without the confidence that it actually will. I think.
Roll weak point. 4.
4.
And Nevin, how are you vulnerable?
I think that I am vulnerable because there's I'm very much in an I told you so mode. Like, I described the roots and the little octopus movement, and now I was like, we should have found the bear. So I'm just really very busy saying I told you so to my fellow adventurers.
Fantastic. Go ahead and roll your weak point. A 3. A 6, 4, and 3. Those are our bad numbers. This is a endurance 9 creature. Osto, you can take the honors. Go ahead.
Am I just starting with, it's a dark die for each of us, right?
It's just combat 3. You just go to the
combat
section. Yeah.
Boop.
A 6, a 4, and a 4 is a 6 and a 4 is a 10. And so that is a success. Esfahen and Osto taking some hits. Osto, you're taking 2 hits. There could be a bit of a problem, though. because you are all going to figure out very quickly your weapons don't hurt it. So it's hurting you. You are not hurting it. Please begin the narration, Osto, when you realize that your weapons are no good against this thing.
Yeah, I think much to Osto's worst theory, he rushes forward with his cudgel, and like one of the waves of this ooze sort of tries to splash down at him, and he slams it against it, and it just kind of passes through as you might expect. The force seems to be absorbed by it, and as it splashes onto his arm, I think I am going to use my studded gauntlets to remove this damage. So I think they like fizzle and grow strangely hot, and so he like casts them off. They've been used for now.
Indeed, indeed. Esfahan, you're taking the other hit. Also, your weapons aren't doing anything. What does this look like?
I'm first gonna mark that with armor because I don't want to be stuck at 5 ruin again. So I think Esfahan grabs a knife and she goes down to stab the part of the ooze that's encroaching upon where she's standing, except it just moves around it and sort of climbs up the knife and her hand, and she manages to shake it off because it hit the armor and not her. But yeah.
Nevin, your hatchet's doing no good on this thing. What does it look like?
Yeah, so I think I just like to take that axe and I just trying to like slice through it, and I feel like while yelling about how I told you so, I'm also then like as it's slicing through, and then I think the ooze is kind of like reforming around the cut. I'm kind of like, God damn it, it's ooze, of course.
We have some decisions to make in the second combat round here. Your current weapons are no good. You can reach for torches or something else that you think might be more effective against the creature, but it's going to force you to do a combat where you can't kill it while you fumble around for weapons. But if you're okay with that, you can do that. If you would, as an individual, prefer to run away, you can also do that. But if everyone runs, it could be a problem for the group.
Could I spend 3 hunt tokens to answer our set goal of getting into the tunnels?
Oh, intriguing. As a way of like escaping?
Yes.
Yeah, if you're willing to spend the tokens, yeah.
Well, I was planning on holding on to those for maybe some gold, but I think this is a situation that might merit some getting out of here.
Yeah, you can spend them. I'll let you all escape too if you do it.
Yeah, I spent 3 hunt tokens. So
as you're all flailing around against the ooze, it's doing no good. There are vines creeping up the stone, and the vines wrap inside those 3 holes. And then the vines pull the stone apart. You hear the cracking of rock as the stones are ripped apart, and the ground basically just like opens up beneath you. Osto, you will fall down into the hole. Esfahan and Nevin, are you okay with falling down the hole? Or do you want to stay up here with the ooze?
I think the hole sounds better than those.
Where my brother goes, I go.
The ground opens up beneath all 3 of you, and you are tumbling now down a kind of a dramatic kind of incline on the tunnel, but you're tumbling down, and you tumble down and you land hard on the ground into the first part of the dungeon portion of this little incursion, this adventure. And I think we're actually going to end there today a little early. We'll pick up next week with the actual dungeon crawl portion. no gold was found. You all have made zero progress on your burdens, but plenty of horror was had. Let's do stars and wishes. Whoever wants to go first, take it away.
I really liked Esfahan's scene back at the cabin. Like what started as like a friendly sort of interest in the work being conducted there quickly turned violent, and it's very in line for Esfahan when I'm like, oh yeah, is the cabin safe? And she's like, well, in a manner of speaking. I just really liked that whole bit. It was really fun.
I love that
Yeah,
scene too. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Alicia.
I'm just gonna say I also like Kavi at the beginning being like, I mean, we've danced around it, but maybe she's done a murder, and then just like straight up does a murder was the best.
Yeah, I love that. I thought that scene was so great. It was so like, it was really like, it felt very strong, like horror genre, you know, to me. It felt really good. The sort of like paranoid researcher and like all this, you know, talking to the trees and all that business. And I like how that all like kind of paid off later too. Like the talking to the trees thing kind of paid off with like the violence of the trees kind of caused on the loggers. Yeah, that's my initial star. I might have more in a minute, but.
I also really liked I liked bringing back the bear, like having that be something on the periphery because of Nevin's exploration, and then having that be kind of reintroduced. It's almost like our white rabbit leading us down all kinds of dangerous holes. So it's been good.
I have a star for Mr. Pigman because that was just like fun NPC and interaction, and I really enjoyed like watching that. Like, why is this random man hunting for truffles in the middle of a night in a murderous forest? Like, it's just so good. I really liked it. I like unexpected sort of NPCs like that, so that was fun.
Yeah, and that was straight out of the adventure too. So yeah, it's a fun little detail. Oh, copy it. Do you have any stars or wishes?
I mean, I do, but you can go first.
Oh, well, I'll just say that I really enjoyed I just like the whole vibe of the session. I just thought I just like the kind of building tension, the like kind of going down different trails, literally trying to see like what is what, kind of gradually piecing together some stuff that's going on. I like the spend of the hunt roll tokens. I thought that was really good. It's kind of one of those fun things because it's like, you know, you've spent them and you've escaped a very hairy situation, literally. And but you know, but the sort of promise of the game is you might regret this later, right? You might wish you had those tokens like after you've fallen down into a hole. So so that was all really good. It was very good trophy gold gameplay. And even though like the hunt roll tokens like sort of like short circuit like what the adventure module intends you to do to get underneath the standing stone, it still like felt like a really cool moment and a cool scene, and so I like how the story is going with that.
Um, Definite star for Esfahan's not going to trust a single NPC we encounter here ever again. Um, she trusted one, and it immediately bit her. Definite star for the fact that I am not at 5 Ruin in the middle of the adventure yet. I loved the bear quest section. I absolutely love that because of Nevin, we got to keep that happening. I'm a very big fan, both in character and out of character for different reasons, of the sorcery affecting the mushrooms, affecting the ritual, affecting people. It's very, very interesting. The only wish I have right now is please God, let there be money in that dungeon somewhere.
I think that's part of my star actually though, in that this module feels dangerous for sure, but not necessarily because the trees are going to kill us. It's because where the fuck are we gonna get our money to meet our burdens? That is a different kind of danger.
Well, and what's interesting is you all were drawn here, like, not with the normal impetus of the treasure hunter, right? Normally you're following up on a money lead, right? Like, here's a place we can go plunder. And this was like something different, right? It was like, something kind of alien and cosmic drawing you to the place with no promise of payment, right? But your burdens don't care about that. So, worst case scenario, you can always spend tokens, but yeah. My wish, I'm very interested to just see how the dungeon portion goes. And it goes into, I know for a fact it goes into some very, very like strange places. Those strange places are going to seem extra strange because you didn't do the entire hex crawl. And so you're going to be missing some context, but I think that'll make it even more, I think that'll be equally interesting because it's going to feel very exceptionally weird, right? And so you'll be kind of doing it without your context. It'll just feel very strange. So I'm looking forward to that. And otherwise, no, I'm really happy with how it's going. But I'll just say a star to Chris as well. I think the adventure is really fun. I like it. It's very tight little package that kind of delivers what it says it's going to. And it worked really well for Trophy Gold too. Like the conversion to Trophy Gold was really simple. So that made me happy.
Yeah, it feels like a very classic Chris module to me. Like I can see their like little fingerprints on it in some of the parts. I'm like, oh yeah, I get that.
Yeah.
Any other stars or wishes? Oh yeah, go ahead.
On top of the wish for maybe some money, I think also I think Osto is like kind of curious at this point about what is this forest deal. So I think like really getting to the bottom of that is something that is going to drive at least how I'm role playing next time.
For sure. My main goal may be burdens, but Asfahan's main goal is knowledge. So
yeah, I might do a kind of like knowledge as treasure thing too. That's an idea that was introduced in this other third-party Trophy Gold incursion called the Academy Chrysalis, and it kind of has this like little system for like mechanizing like knowledge as treasure, which I think is an interesting idea. And so I might find a way of fitting that in here as well, because that might be ultimately what there is to do here. It's like knowledge as treasure. So, but the way it works is pretty cool. Like basically, you find the knowledge, and then whoever sells it to get paid, they have to describe how the world changes now that this knowledge is out in the world, right? Like, how do things change because you told people of this, right? So yeah, it's kind of a fun little idea.
oh my god, yes, please.
Yeah, I think it'll be fun. We'll do that. Fabulous. Any other stars or wishes?
I would still like to find the bear. Which, if it's in the tunnels, it's going to be weird, but I still want to find the bear.
We shall see. All right, fabulous. Well, in that case, everyone, please wave goodbye to everybody watching the video.